Welcome to CivilNet. Our guest today is the president of the Near East Foundation, Mr. Charlie Benjamin, and the chairman of the Near East Foundation, Mr. Shant Mardirossian. Welcome, Mr. Shant Mardirossian. Mr. Benjamin, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
First of all, welcome in Armenia, and it's a great occasion to be here, this exhibition in the Trail of the Armenian Orphans. Would you tell us why in May? Like, it's typical for Armenians to organize and talk about the Armenian Genocide, organize different events about the Armenian Genocide, Armenian orphans, our experiences in April. So these events happen on the April 24 week, and April 25, 26, people go back to their normal lives. So it's May, it's mid-May, and you're organizing this magnificent event. Can you tell us how did this happen? How did you plan to do this at this time?
Sure, and it's a very good question because there's a very symbolic reason on why we chose to do this after April 24th. April 24th is a commemoration of the genocide, of what we lost and of the people we lost. But what came after with the Near East relief and the rescue efforts is not about what we lost, but about what we gained. And it is about perseverance, and it's about the sacrifices that were made to rebuild the Armenian nation. So the story of the Near East relief is about that. With the help of the United States of America, the Armenian nation was rebuilt by rescuing these 130,000 children and over 1 million refugees. And we came here after April 24th so we can speak to what happened afterwards.
During the press conference today, the American ambassador called this the wonderful U.S.-Armenian story. And these photographs that you brought from the United States, those are from the Rockefeller Collection. Can you explain us how come that Rockefeller, an international collectioner, he collected all these photos, and how the interest arose with him to gather this collection? How come that they ended up at Rockefeller?
Actually, the collection is the Near East Foundation's collection, not the Rockefeller's collection. But we partnered with the Rockefeller Archive Center, which is a professional institution that was established for the Rockefeller Family Foundation, but it also accepts archives relating to American history from other institutions. So we approached them because we didn't have the means to preserve these, and we didn't have the means to make them available for scholarly research. So we partnered with them about 5 years ago, and our archival material is now being properly curated and properly stored and properly preserved. And it has open access so that any researcher anywhere in the world can come and access them and work with them.
I think you also work with many American universities also with their archives.
Sure. Well, the Near East Relief archives are spread across many other institutions, many archival institutions, many universities. So there is no one single place that houses all of our archival material. What happened as the organization disbanded in the early 1930s and went from the Near East Relief to the Near East Foundation, those relief workers that returned and maintained their own papers and their diaries put their materials into archives that they were closely associated with. So there was no concerted effort to centralize and collect this information. And that's something we're trying to do to a certain level in a digital way now that technology can provide us with the ability to do that. But you can find Near East Relief archives all around the world. There are materials in Geneva within the archives of the I'm forgetting the name of the institution, the League of Nations. There are archives that are in UCLA, there are archives that are at Harvard, there are archives that are at obscure libraries in America. But again, there's no single one place that houses them all. And we hope that eventually one day, virtually through the use of a website, we can try to bring all these archival materials together in a digital way so that we can tell the complete story.
And those archives are they are composed of photos of orphanages, schools, which are established by the Near East Foundation in 1915, and the Near East Foundation helped over 130,000 Armenian orphans.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The archives that we're showing over the course of this weekend at the Nargatsi Art Institute, and which will be displayed for the next 2 weeks at the Armenian National Art Gallery, are largely from the collection of the Near East Foundation, which is held with Rockefeller Archive Center. And what they show and demonstrate is all of the relief efforts that took place from 1915 all the way to 1927. At that point, our efforts began to end. The orphans were released, and the Soviet Union essentially asked the Near East Relief to leave. So at that point, we ended.
Which year was that?
I believe it was 1927.
Yes.
And then after that, in 1930, the organization changed from the Near East Relief to the Near East Foundation, and its mandate changed so that it wasn't only helping those Christian minorities, such as the Armenians, the Greeks, and the Assyrians, that were affected by the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, but it also began to help those in other countries that we were already working in, which included Greece, countries in the Middle East, such as Egypt, in Jerusalem. Today we're working in Sudan, we work in Morocco, but we've worked in over 40 countries in the last 100 years that we've been in existence.
I would like to mention to our audiences that the exhibition, which starts tomorrow, will last until June 8 in the National Art Gallery of Armenia in Yerevan. I would like to also ask you, Dr. Benjamin, I would like to ask you about the recent projects you're doing in Armenia. What kind of projects are you working on now?
So we restarted our work here in Armenia in 2008, and the work focused on what we called local economic development. It was a combination of training in business development so that people in rural areas could start businesses, earn a living, and it was kind of a process of starting with analysis to look at opportunities, training for people to help them understand how to run businesses, and then providing microcredit so that they could start up their small businesses. We expanded, we with our local partners, worked on developing micro-franchises, so networks of small businesses in rural areas. One of those was a network or I should say is a network of rural computer centers where, and these are private businesses, where young people can get access to internet, they can get access to computer training, they can buy computers, they can have their computers fixed. These are small businesses, they create jobs, they create income, and they provide services for rural people. Most recently, and one of the things that we're doing currently is starting up a new project, always focusing on using the tools of economic development to address both economic and social problems. With the Tufenkian Foundation, the support of the Open Society Foundation, also working with our local partners, the Gerganik Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Business Pareta, and the Small and Medium Enterprise Development National Committee Center of Armenia. We're working with women's service centers. These are shelters where victims of domestic violence come to receive a variety of support, counseling, shelter. And what we will be doing with our partners, the women's support centers, is providing training to victims of domestic violence to start small businesses so that they can have some degree of economic independence that will allow them to break the cycle of domestic violence. They will no longer necessarily need to return to their abusive environments. They can, so it's a new project. It's an exciting project. It's a much needed project, and something that we're very proud of.
I think you have similar projects also in other countries where Mr. Mardirossian also mentioned, like Sudan. We were just talking offline.
Right. Yeah, well, so the Near East Foundation, now all of this that started in 1915 with Near East Relief has become, it's resulted in a tradition now of post-relief economic and social development. We are currently in 7 countries. We're in Morocco, Mali, Egypt, Sudan, Palestinian territories, Jordan, and Armenia. And in many of these cases, what we try to do is to use the tools of economic development, business, job creation, to address social development problems. So one of the examples we were talking about in the peri-urban slums of Khartoum in Sudan, we're working in communities of internally displaced people, particularly women who are at risk. Essentially, they're prostitutes and they're vulnerable to infection by HIV/AIDS. And we have been providing them with support from the United Nations system, United Nations UNFPA, with training in business development. And then we've been helping them get access to microcredit so they can start small businesses as an alternative to prostitution. And the level, it's been really amazing to see what they're capable of with new skills and very modest resources. We're talking startup grants of less than $100 per person. And these women have been able to start small businesses, small restaurants, small retail shops, and it's changed their lives. I think that one of the cases that sticks out most clearly to me, with a startup grant of less than $100, one of our partners is now earning $200 in profit per month from a small restaurant. It's a life-changing assistance.
Impressive. Well, thank you for the invaluable work you're doing, and thanks also for the Near East Foundation. And we would like to remind again to our audiences about the exhibition which is taking place in the National Art Gallery of Armenia from May 26th until June 8th. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching CivilNet.